I'm 62, and if you're in your 40s or 50s, I want to share something with you that I didn't fully grasp until it was way later than I wished. And not because I wasn't trying. I'm Britt, welcome. I was doing all the same things. I was building a career, serving, fighting for justice, showing up for everyone else, managing schedules, 2 different lives, managing crises, managing my husband's calendar, managing our careers. And once I got married later in life, I had this deadline, these routines, these plans. Oh, the plans, right? But looking back now, I can see exactly where I drifted off track. And not just from my own dreams, but from the pace and priorities that I felt that God was inviting me into and that I missed. And I just ran right on by Him. And I don't want that for you. So this video is for any Christian woman who feels like time is slipping away, like you should be further ahead, or like your life looks like it's okay on paper, but it feels like not peaceful, right? It doesn't feel like you're actually living it, but it's great on paper. Here's something that no one really tells you about this stage of life, or at least nobody told me. Once you see what's really going on underneath your busyness, you can't unsee it. So today I want to walk you through the 3 biggest things that I wish I had understood earlier in life, and the reframe rooted in my faith that helped me course correct in the second half of my life. And if this feels like time travel, think of it that way. So let's think of time travel. So let's say I'm sending a message back to my 40-something and 50-something self, the one who kept going and kept pushing and kept hustling. I was feeling aimless and hollow before God. So hopefully this reaches you long before you get to my age and have felt that moment. Like, wow, I just spent an entire decade on the wrong path. So let's get into it. Lesson number 1. Stop living on autopilot. Become conscious. Ask God each morning, each night, what do you want of me at this time in my life? Because in my 40s and 50s, I was the queen of autopilot. What do they call it? The badge of busyness, right? It's different than being productive. And I had routines, I had to-do lists, I had color-coded everything. And on the outside, it really looked like I was winning at life, right? Building a career in policy, serving people, supporting everyone around me, managing a home, managing a marriage, managing a calendar for 2 people that never seemed to quit, right? Never seemed to have space. And now I know you calendar the space, right? But I was running so fast, I didn't stop and ask God about that. So here's the thing. When you live like that long enough, you can wake up one day and realize you built a life that doesn't actually feel like yours, or like the one God was gently calling you to. It's kind of like following the recipe exactly perfectly for that perfect pie, and then realizing you didn't even like the pie. And worse, it's not the one that the Lord had in mind when He gave you your gifts and your calling. You know, Corinthians tells us that we're all given spiritual gifts. Dive into yours. Ask the Lord what yours are. And research shows that the average person spends over 2.5 hours a day on social media. Oh my gosh. Add in your commutes, your errands, your emails, the invisible load you carry. Well, no wonder many of us have to feel like we've actually been sleepwalking. We've been busy all day with all this stuff. But it's not necessarily awaking our spirit in what God called us to do. And psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill, right? Constantly chasing the next thing, adapting, then chasing again, then adapting again, faster and faster, without really moving forward. It's kind of like the hamster wheel. One of my mentors calls it, get off the hamster wheel, right? So for me, the wake-up call came in my life in my 40s, when I realized that I'd been so focused on hitting the next goal, the next milestone, that I never stopped to ask myself, God, whose life am I actually building here? Mine? Or is this the one that culture told me I should build? Or what the Keeping Up with the Joneses said I should want? Or is this actually the one God that you have for me? And that's one reframe I really want to give you. Hit pause. Ask yourself, Lord, is this goal from you? Do I even like doing this? Do I even want to do this? Do you want me to do this? Or have I just been on autopilot? And you don't need a dramatic pivot all the time. You don't have to run away to Italy or sell everything and start a goat farm, unless you want to. I have friends doing that, in which case I absolutely support it. But I'm talking about small, prayerful course corrections in your 30s and 40s and 50s that could maybe save you from waking up in your 60s thinking, oh my, what happened? And maybe you're clinging to the wrong mountain. So that's the lesson here. Don't sleepwalk through your life. Bring it before God. Audit it with Him. And keep what's truly yours in Christ. And release and let go of what's just noise or pressure. Because before we move into the next lesson, I really want you to think about that. I've seen a billionaire on his deathbed. He didn't want another trip to the ATM. He wanted some people there that loved him, cared about him. He wanted to know what he'd done with his life made a difference. Now, he had created a legacy for future generations, and he had built a community that supported a lot of people in need. But not everyone is that fortunate. And believe me, money doesn't hug you. It sure is nice. My old mentor, Zig Ziglar, used to say, I've been with money, I've been without it. With money's better. So they're certainly planning and being effective for that. But we're called to be stewards, right? And, before we move into lesson 2, I just want to let you know, if you're realizing that you've been on autopilot maybe and you want out of it or you want some support, I created a free private community of Christian women who want more purpose and peace, prosperity, and do it God's way. So click in the link below and that's there for you. It's really simple. It's supportive and it's encouraging. I'm sure it'll help get clarity on where you want to go and reignite you with some momentum. So again, link below. All right, lesson number 2. Your identity in Christ is more important than your goals. Now, let me explain that. For years, I set goals. Like everybody else, most of us set goals. Get healthier, get stronger, be more organized, hit my career markers, hit personal milestones, released a book, released another book, bestseller on Amazon, and I'm thinking, oh, should be bestseller on New York Times list. There's always these comparisons. But for me, I've learned to celebrate all the little things. And sometimes I hit them. And here's what always happens, though. I was the same person on the other side of the goal. I was the same person after I got that white 928 Porsche that was like in Risky Business that Tom Cruise drove off the pier into the water, right? I got that car. It was my dream car. I loved that car. And it sat in the parking lot a lot because I wanted to keep it perfect while I drove my Chevy Citation I got for $1,200 commuter in California traffic every single day because I didn't want to ruin the other car. I didn't even enjoy it that much for years. And there's nothing wrong with having a dream car. I have a dream airplane. And look, that wasn't Mother Teresa's goal, but she ended up riding around some of the nicest airplanes on the planet. And she gave, and she did it God's way. That's what I'm doing here, the best to do. And he said to speak into people like you. So I hope you get something out of this, and I trust you'll share it with a woman in your life that may benefit from hearing this, or just feel encouraged, There's nothing wrong, nothing wasted. God doesn't waste anything. And we have a community of women that can come alongside you and encourage you right where you are now, wherever that is. Just got married, just got divorced, kids just left, just had a kid, whatever it is. We just want to love on you. So back to the lessons. So I was the same person before I got that Porsche as I was after, right? But boy, did I love driving that thing in the hills on the weekends on 280 and just enjoyed the heck of it. And sometimes I'd run the race, I'd hit the target, and then once I hit the target, I'd kind of slide right back to where I was. And I realized the goals weren't sticking because my identity hadn't changed. And today I help women step into their true identity. So I had still been clinging to the old versions of myself, the fixer, the overfunctioner, the woman who could hold everything together no matter what. Remember that old commercial? I can fry up the bacon. Okay, never mind. That's going to be a bad take. But even when I wasn't serving God, honestly, I felt like I was living more out of those labels I had than out of who God says I am. Because He says I'm loved, I'm chosen, I'm called, and I'm created for good works that He prepared in abundance. James Clear says, every action you take is a vote for the type of person that you believe you are, right? And over time, those votes add up. So your identity shifts and eventually your behavior naturally follows, right? So hopefully this makes sense. Here's the reframe for you. Stop asking yourself, what goal shall I set? And start asking yourself, who do I want to become in Christ? Instead of, I want to lose 10 pounds. And believe me, your subconscious hears lose. So I also coach people in that area because there's no woman I have ever met that has not wanted to change their body a little bit. And we shift the identity, and then the weight and all that just follows. You are a daughter of God. You honor God by taking care of your body. What's another reframe? Instead of, I want to save money, we can say, I'm a faithful steward of the resources that God's given me. And one is a task, and the other reshapes your identity and aligns it with what God already says about you. And when identity shifts, your habits follow without so much friction and so much self-sabotage, right? So if you are in your 30s, 40s, or even 50s, this is a perfect time to start shaping the identity that you want to grow into. Not the one that you've identified with from your family or from the world or from your job, but the one rooted in you, who you are in Jesus. Lesson number 3 here. Time isn't running out, but it is slipping away if you drift. So when I turned into my last decade, I had a moment, not panic, but a lot of clarity. And I realized, okay, I'm officially in the second half of my life, if I'm lucky. And suddenly, I could see the decades behind me, the busy ones, the blurry ones, the ones I rushed through. And I thought, if I don't make changes now, the next 20 years will vanish just as fast. So here's the encouraging part. Research shows that happiness actually rises after you're 50. Who would have thought? I mean, who would want to go through high school again? Although I guess a few of us loved it for a little while. But life can get better. It can get fuller. It can get lighter if you're intentional, right? And as believers, we also know that God isn't finished with us. As long as we have breath, He has a purpose for us. And here's the sobering part. Most of us get about 4,000 weeks in the average lifespan. So if you're in your 40s, you've already used about half. And that's assuming you're going to get into your 80s. So time doesn't disappear all at once. It actually drips away. Scrolling, overcommitting, telling yourself, I'll do it later. One of my mentors says procrastination is just a 5-syllable word for sloth. Don't live on default. Live by design. And ask the Lord, what do you have for me today? What do you have in this season? Right? So it's not too late. You're not too old, I promise. But it is too late to keep on drifting. God is the author of time. He can shrink it. He can expand it. And if you use it wisely, He'll step alongside you to continue to meet your heart's desires, which He gave you in the first place. And if you're in your 30s, you've got time to course correct, right? So if you're in your 40s, it's your invitation to stop postponing what God has been actually nudging you about, right? And if you're 50s and beyond, like me, the urgency is real. But so is the possibility that God does beautiful work in these later chapters. And look, when people in their 30s say, oh, I feel so old, I really have to laugh at that now. You're not old. You just made it out of the tutorial level, right? Now you're in the master's level of life. And now that you actually know enough and have enough that you've walked out in life, you've got something meaningful. So let's recap. The 3 things I wish I'd known earlier are simple but powerful. Stop living on autopilot, right? Step into God's cockpit. Identify in Christ. Make sure your goals are from Him. And 3, time isn't running out. But if you drift, if you say tomorrow, later, it is slipping away. So here's the big reframe. You're not behind. You don't have to overhaul everything. It's just time to start making plans that line up with who God made you to be and what you can become in Him. And once I shifted my identity, everything else started falling into place naturally, quietly, beautifully, unexpectedly, steadily. It was amazing. And I'd love the same for you. So if you would like to join us with mutual encouragement and free courses and weekly howdy hello, we meet for Q&A once a week. I designed a free community in school for a group of amazing women just like you. So please tell me in the comments which one of these things I spoke about today affect you most. Is it the time slipping away? Is it the procrastination? I'd love to know. And if this spoke to you, check out my video that's coming up next. If you're ready to reset your energy, refocus your life, and surround yourself with faith-filled, driven women walking boldly in their calling. Join my free private community, and I'll drop the link below. So thanks for spending this time with us. Every bit's precious. Remember, you are beloved.